Mo Amer here on our program. We just showed for the Roku audience and more a clip from the news show Mo, where again you are playing a Palestinian refugee in Houston. How much is this about you, Mo?
It's a lot of it is based on my life. I came to the States as a refugee free agent. I decided to commit myself to the United States. And then it took me 20 years to get my citizenship. So there's a lot of interesting stories and way to survive, working under the table while you're waiting for your paperwork to come through. And we just thought we'd explore a world where if I didn't find stand-up comedy at such a young age and I still had to work under the table and find my way while trying to take care of my family after losing my father at a young age and juggling all these, psychological effects of fleeing war and assimilating in a new country.
How did you find stand-up? Or did it find you?
It's an interesting thing. Yeah, maybe both. I was 10 years old. My brother wanted to just get my mind off of things, and we went to the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, and they had live stand-up comedy. And that was the first time I ever saw it live.
Stand-up comedy in a livestock show?
At the Houston, they have the biggest concerts of the year at the rodeo for 3 weeks out of the year. Right. Some of the biggest artists come perform there. And it was at the Astrodome at that time.
At the old Astrodome.
At the old Astrodome.
Which still exists.
It still exists.
Whenever I've gone to NRG Stadium, is that what they still call it in Houston? I don't know if they changed the name or whatever.
Reliant,
Reliant, there you go. Gives you an idea of how long it's
been. It's the same company.
Right, same thing. So when you see the Astrodome next to it, I mean, that used to be one of the wonders of the world, as it was known. It looks like a little
pimple. Little pimple. It looks like a pimple next to it. It does.
Right.
You're like, what is this thing? Who's going to pop this thing? Or what are we doing with it?
So you did your first stand-up in the Astrodome?
No. That was the first time I saw stand-up. I was 10 years old, and in that moment, I knew I was going to be a stand-up comedian.
I see.
I looked at my brother. I was like, I'm going to be a comedian. And he was just like, yeah, okay.
So I guess your first stand-up act that you saw was in the Astrodome?
Absolutely, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
So then when did you first try it yourself?
I started when I was 14, 4 years later.
14?
Yeah, my father passed away, and I was just skipping school. I lost like a lot of purpose and just was finding myself, trying to figure it out. And I would always say, I'm going to be a stand-up comedian, So my English teacher, she's the one who brought me back in. She goes, how would your father feel if you don't graduate high school? Because you're on your way to fail miserably. I was like, that would be an awful thing. And she said, well, don't you want to be a stand-up comedian? I said, yes. She goes, I'll let you do stand-up every Friday if you stop skipping school. And she said, I'll give you also extra credit if you can mix in Shakespeare, because it was English class. And that's what I did, and I was doing it consistently every Friday for weeks. And then she took me to the theater arts department. She was like, hey, this kid's like doing all these different accents, original material I've never heard before. I think he belongs here. And then the following year, I'm like, I was made like honorary thespian. I was lead roles in theatrical plays. She literally changed my whole life.
Yeah, thank God for her. What's her name?
Mrs. Reed. Mrs. Reed and Mrs. Broderick. It was both of them, actually.
Is she still with us?
She is still with us. We just recently reached out to her. So I spoke with Miss Broderick already, and I'm hoping to sit down and have a meeting and thank her personally.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. Mo Amer here on the Rich Eisen Show, and you just used the phrase free agent in referring to yourself, and that normally free agents or I guess kids who would choose schools would choose a hat. I noticed the hat in your clip was a 1994 Houston Rockets championship hat.
That's right.
Was that like one of your big childhood moments?
Of course. As a Muslim living in America, Elijah was the guy, and he was so accessible to us. Like I would see him frequently at like Friday prayers, or he would just pop in. Yeah, he would just pop in. He was so generous. And my dad, actually, before he passed away, he took me to a Nigerian mosque. And it was one of my fondest memories before he passed. And that's where he got me to meet Hakeem and spend time with him. And he signed a bunch of stuff for me. And it was just like one of the most amazing days of my life.
How old were you then?
I was 13. I was 13,
so just right before your dad passed and before you started with your stand-up.
Right. And right after that, they won the first championship. Yeah. Like literally that year, basically. right after he passed away. My dad, it was crazy.
So Drexler, he's your guy too?
Drexler's the guy, of course. Yeah. All those Robert Ory, Sam Cassell, Kenny Smith.
Is that a Mo Ellie situation too?
Yeah.
Trying to go in my head right now because
Vernon Maxwell.
I was on the other end of that stick. Mo Amer, living in New York, being a New Yorker, being a Knick fan. I was at the very end. So you're welcome for John Stark's shooting night.
Yeah, no problem. I remember that block and O.J. Simpson interrupting that finals. Who's the worst?
Gosh, I was actually in Chicago at my my graduate school graduation from journalism school.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Okay, I had just graduated from Northwestern School of Journalism.
Great school.
And we were in. Thank you. And I was in a bar. With my family was there, and a bunch of other classmates' families were there.
Right.
And the Knicks were playing a huge ass game against the Rockets. And I remember standing at the screen. You'll like this being a comic. I just decided to crack wise as the whole bar was like dead silent, watching on the screen as the white Ford Bronco was being chased.
Yep.
And then the Knicks were on the, on the other box. It was like a two-box situation.
Yeah. It was the first time you saw picture-in-picture.
Exactly. It was picture-in-picture. Yeah. And I just remember standing there in the bar as everyone was like dead silent. And I just decided to do this. I was screaming, "That was a flagrant foul!" Like, what the hell? And people started like whipping their head towards me like, "What is your problem?" I'm like, "It's the finals." Yes. I don't care what the hell's happening in Los Angeles.
Zero.
I just decided to do that.
The feeling was mutual. We were just completely yelling at the screen the entire time. It was like, who cares? It's rich people just driving 40 miles an hour on the highway. Like, I don't care.
He did it.
He did it. They're all behind him. Like, just get it over with.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Olajuwon blocking John Starks. I remember that. That 3-point attempt.
They were great. That was it. That was it. That was like Pat Riley's best shot at winning with the Knicks, and the Knicks' best shot at winning with Jordan not being around.
Right.
I mean, that was it. And,
well, he did come back that second season. This is the whole beef that I have as a Houston Rockets fan, winning back-to-back championships. They're like, Jordan wasn't there. Well, he technically was, and they lost to the Orlando Magic. And Orlando got swept by the Houston Rockets. It was that big comeback in Game 1 that flipped everything. They never recovered.
But so we'll never know what.
I really wish that he was there fully, like they had the full season. I wish because I believe that Hakeem Olajuwon was Jordan's kryptonite. Like they didn't play well against Vernon Maxwell, played him aggressively, and it was always a good match. I really, really wish. I think it would have been their first L in the finals. I really believe that.
The Last Dance would have been a totally different documentary.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been.
I mean.